The best of.
This is the best of the Bill Baker and Jessica Show.
Damn right.
Baker and Jessica Show. We have Mayor Jake Day from Salisbury live in studio. Again, appreciate you coming in, man. Having a good time.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate y'all having me.
November the 5th.
That's right.
Make sure to get out and vote.
Vote.
Mayor Salisbury. Now, we were talking about some of your accomplishments, some of the things you've done over the years, and you do have an opponent who's running against you, Mr. Wayne King, who's on the Republican ticket. You guys are debating tonight.
6 p.m.
He's not on the Republican ticket because we don't have parties in Salisbury.
Okay.
So
okay.
We're both nonpartisan. It's a nonpartisan race, and we're not allowed to have our identity, and it doesn't appear on our party affiliation. Doesn't appear on the ballot.
Well, as an outsider looking in, that sure fooled me. Yeah, because it seems to always go back to who's
whatever
who.
you say,
What
Mr.
party
Day.
you're with. You know what I'm saying? But that's a good thing. And that's what I was saying before.
You're totally right.
The local election, when it comes to your office, shouldn't be about that. But that's what it always comes back to.
Well, look, and I'm so grateful that all of the Republican officials that have made endorsements of me. All the Democratic officials who have made endorsements of me. All the nonpartisan groups that have made endorsements, 100% have been for me. So, I'm pretty proud of my ability to work with people regardless of their party.
Mm-hmm.
This morning, Governor Hogan endorsed me.
Nice.
That just went out.
Again,
public.
congratulations. That's great.
That's great
And
news.
I think that speaks to the fact that, we both ran for office to change the way things were.
Mm-hmm.
And I think both of us have accomplished that. And he speaks to that in his quote. And I think you cannot look at someone's party affiliation when they are in a position to help your community. It's got to be about what can we get done together.
Right.
And time again, just last week I sat in front of the Republican majority county council, and they brought us in to sing the praises of the National Folk Festival, to help understand what they can do. They want to do more next year. They want to put funding in the budget. They want to get serious about helping out with the Folk Festival. They've already done a lot. The county has played a great role through their Parks, Recreation, and Tourism team. Same with Worcester County and the town of Ocean City are our partners in the out-of-market marketing that we do. That's a big piece of state funding that we get for the National Folk Festival. And we're very grateful for the partnership that we get from our Republican friends in support of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And congratulations on all the success of the Folk Fest.
Thank you.
It
was a great year.
Yeah.
I will tell
huge.
you. So last year with the rain, 63,000 people, still the biggest event in Salisbury's history.
Yeah.
Still the biggest.
With the rain.
That's right, with the rain. Still the biggest economic impact in one event in our city's history, in our county's history. And then this year, over $45 million economic impact, 153,000 visitors
great.
Wow.
in a weekend.
Unbelievable.
It's big for us. Look, we're not Ocean City. We're not the beaches. We don't want to be the beaches. We love our friends to the east. We support what they do. They're part of our region's economic prowess and mix. And we're not going to have the same draw that a beach has.
Right.
We're not a tourist town.
Right.
But when we can do things that are good for our community and good for our economy and bring people in and introduce them to Salisbury, that's a good thing, and we're going to do it.
Well, speaking of the Folk Fest, I did want to ask you, because we did talk about it. There was some controversy in the news about the serving alcohol or liquor. There was a letter that was written saying that basically you didn't get the liquor license, the appropriate channels.
That's right.
Can you give us, kind of like the rundown, a little bit of insight on,
Sure,
did that all get wrapped up? I mean,
It's all taken care of,
is that
and
all
we're good
like
for next
settled?
year?
Is everybody happy now?
Have we moved on?
I have no idea if the one person who had a problem with it, if it's been resolved in their head. But
when you have an event like this,
what we know.
you got to have.
Well, here's what that's actually incumbent upon the community to provide it. So when you go and compete for this thing, you're bringing on the National Folk Festival with 80 years of history.
Right.
You're not creating your own thing. You have to do the things that you sign a contract to do, which includes provide certain types of beer, certain types of wine. You have to do that.
It's like a rider.
It's a rider.
That's what the Folk Festival requires, right?
Yeah, it's in the contract. And so, of course, we had to do that. We caught wind of the fact that one elected official was trying to and was happily running around town telling people in the business community that he was going to stop that from happening. The business community, by the way,
stop you from selling alcohol
at the Folk Festival. So the business community, by the way, has each year of this thing raised over $700,000 to support the $1.1 million budget. This is their event.
Right.
This is their event.
Right.
So they quickly ran to us and said, is this a real problem? And we said, well, let us look into it. And so we were going through the process of a local application, and we let our governor know. And our governor said, why don't you go through the comptroller and get a state license?
Yeah,
So
just go look.
And here's
I got a guy. Call him. We'll get it handled.
and the comptroller.
I know a guy.
The comptroller was more than happy to do
But
it.
it should be, because an event like this, it shouldn't even be a thing. You shouldn't even have to fill out. We already filled out the application last year. Oh, we're going to serve alcohol. You're getting it anyway.
Right. He's already issued next year's. We're good.
Yeah.
But here's what I want to point out. The hypocrisy is not just in that this is shooting your own community in the foot. If you're an elected official, why would you ever undermine your own economy to the tune of $45 million? Let me tell you let me give you another example. How would we feel about an elected official who purposely stopped a company with a $45 million payroll in a year from coming to our community? Would we all just say like, oh, that's kind of silly that he did that? Or would we all march in the streets and say, what are you doing?
Right.
You're right.
What was this person doing? But more importantly,
Now, was that person during the Folk Fest out there with a drink in their hand?
Oh, yes.
Of course.
Of course he was.
Of course.
Have you ever heard the term
He's on
"stay
video.
in your lane"?
Of course.
He's on video. But
How many times up to the bar?
but here's the real hypocrisy of it. Every month we pull a state permit for the Fun Fridays at the zoo. We've never heard any objection to that.
Right.
The county itself pulls a state permit for the Autumn Wine Festival that just happened last weekend. That doesn't have a local permit. Why didn't they go through the local process? Why didn't they go through their own channels?
Yeah, but it was the Folk Fest that was trying to get. It was something that you were doing.
That's at the end of the day. That's what it came down to. Is unfortunately, there is this weird notion in one of the offices in the county that somehow the economy and citizens of Salisbury and the businesses of Salisbury, which by the way is 85% of the employment in our community, aren't part of the county. Like, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense. And hopefully we can get past that. Mm-hmm. And we've got an amazing working relationship with our county council, our city council, mayor's office, all working together. The Eastern Shore delegation, the comptroller, the governor, our senators, our congressmen, we're all working together in the same direction. So there's no reason that should happen again.
Well, also want to shout out Mizzlefest.
Yes.
That was another
big.
Successful event.
Very
Shout out
nice.
to A&D and CMAC, and I love the promos, especially the one where they had you in there.
I was with CMAC and Drew last night at the private opening of Mogan's Oyster House in downtown Salisbury.
Oh, okay.
We're very excited to see that thing open up. So saw them last night. They did such an amazing job with that event. I think that's going to grow into something special.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
That's a homegrown event. That is ours, this community's. So that's going to be something special. And the Mizzle House Foundation, the work that they're doing.
Well, let's push
giving back.
Well, on the next Mizzle Fest, let's push some alcohol through there as well. I just put that out there.
Got it. We'll
That's
see
my
what we
request.
We'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
Just a little wine.
I got a guy. Don't worry about it. All right. So a couple, and I don't want to keep you all day. I could if I wanted to. But a couple serious topics that I do want to hit on that a lot of people, or ask about, and wanted us to ask you as well. Can we talk a little bit about the schools? I know that you're not in charge of the schools.
No role with the schools whatsoever.
But I know you're involved in the police.
But not in the schools.
Right, but not in the schools. But you are the mayor of Salisbury. There's a lot going on in Wycomico with the school system. I mean, honestly, like, what is going on? It seems like there's something new every day. And again, I just want to make this clear. Mayor Jake Day has no control over what happens at the schools, in the schools, the decision the schools make.
Yeah,
but
no influence, no role, but I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah, but, there is a lot happening in Wycomico County, particularly, Salisbury Middle School. Mm-hmm. There was also an awful incident that just, was broke yesterday on the news about Parkside. A couple months back, J.M. Bennett.
Yeah.
What's going on, and is there an answer or something, a suggestion that you would make, or something that, because to be honest, as an outsider looking in, I mean, it seems like they're doing the best they can. I mean, each incident is so much different from the other. So I don't think there's like an overall answer, I mean, but what do they do? Because if you put more police and you pepper spray the incidents, if you do more of that, people complain. If you don't do it, you're not doing enough. It's like, what can we do to move forward?
Right. Well, let me start off by saying I think they've got the right person leading the schools. They've got Donna Hanlon, who's just doing a fantastic job, professionalizing the organization and focusing on the right things and getting focused on the long game. So her vision includes universal pre-K, smaller classroom sizes, teacher retention, things that are focused on the long game. Ensuring that. Look, the solution to crime and poverty in our community is solid education early in life, focusing on kids, getting them stable, ensuring that they've got the resources they need at the beginning of their life, instead of saying when they're 20 years old, saying, "Oh, whoops, we've messed up by under-investing in that young person for the last 18 years, and now we're going to try to fix it." When they're on their way out of the system. Or when they're in the system, now we're going to try to fix it. That doesn't work. That's not going to work. So we have a responsibility as a community to support her in those efforts. I think ultimately, at the end of the day, it begs a hard question about, is our county government structuring themselves right to address those issues? In 2000, when we adopted the revenue cap, it was the most backwards policy you could possibly implement. It meant that even in good times, like from 2001 to 2007, financial good times, from 2012 to today, like all of those gains that are helping the economy, they're not helping our schools.
Right.
We created a revenue cap so that you can't make more revenue. And yes, there are small exceptions for how much increased revenue you can get for the schools, but we are the county in the state of Maryland, other than Baltimore City, that is most dependent upon state funding to fund what we do. And that is because we're not doing our fair share. And anytime you go in Annapolis and ask for anything, the first thing they bring up is, why didn't Wycomico County take care of itself? Why didn't Wycomico County step up the way that Caroline County or Queen Anne's County or Washington County or Garrett County has to? What about those citizens? Why are they having to subsidize Wycomico County because y'all adopted this revenue cap? So you look back at that, I think it was a mistake. It's obviously understandable why voters would vote for that. Sure, if I can vote to not increase
Your taxes.
you better
Right,
believe
right.
Yes.
that in self-interest, I'm going to vote for that. But a little bit of reflection and thought about, oh my goodness, what impact does this have on our school system? Wow, that's pretty telling. What impact that's gonna have.
Money is money really stopping the fights?
No, money's not it. Money's not all of it. So I do think long term, those investments in the emotional well-being and the academic well-being of those kids early in life, I do think that's important. That structured environment. I watch my 2-year-old and my 4-year-old and the world that they are in, and the amount of time that's invested in them, both with teachers and my wife and I think that helps their development. That helps their social development. It helps shape how they're going to behave. It helps all sorts of things. Now I wish they behaved better. I'm sure quite a few people saw me dragging them out of Walmart yesterday.
Yes.
Yep.
But
I did that yesterday too.
I'll tell you what.
You ain't the only one.
I'll tell you what.
And I was thinking, like, the people behind me were thinking, like, oh my gosh, this mom is about to go nuts. And I said, get in the car.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, they were running, literally sprinting circles in McDonald's yesterday morning on our daddy-daughter date. And one of the tables of folks looked up at me and said, Mayor, you might be in charge of the city, but you aren't in charge of those.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
You're like,
That's
thanks.
truth.
I know that's right.
That's the truth right there. So I think with our schools, I think there are challenges. There are things that we have done that underinvest, that have a negative impact in the long term. I don't think having more school resource officers in each school is the solution. I think there are so many things that
You have is there one? And again, I know you don't do the schools, but is there one per school, or how does that work?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. It might be one per
Yeah.
in middle and high school.
We talk about what Jake can do. One of the programs that Jake has started is Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Okay.
So it's mentoring. So
Okay.
that's really important. So we are allowed to go into a school, city employees, allowed to go into school and see our mentee. We don't have, we're not deducted time. We can go on our lunch break. We can go whatever and spend 20, 30 minutes. And that means a lot. So what Jake is doing, he doesn't have any control over, but he does have input. He did hire a youth development specialist that goes into school and deals with these young kids.
Okay.
And a lot of the things that he's discussing, Donna Helen's doing the best she can.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
And
we agree with that.
honestly, I feel bad for her.
Well, a lot of stuff that we're discussing, I have 2 kids in school, but a lot of stuff, they see the same things these kids are seeing. A lot of things are brought to the schools, and that's out of Donna Hanlon's
Right.
hands.
And people blame the
lot
schools.
It's a lot of social media is bad. It's awful for this type of stuff. People don't know the stories. They're putting out stuff that's not factually true. But what Jake and the city is, I think we're trying to do our part, and it's important. It's important.
Yeah, and let me just hammer on a couple things real quick. So, I mean, a couple things that I would do if man, I'd get cell phones out of that school, out of those schools.
You think?
Bring back paddling. How about
bring
that?
back belt.
How about that?
I'm gonna sound like
Go out back and pull that switch off that tree and let me spank that behind.
That's what my friend Shani Shields, former city councilwoman, would say.
Let me
But
find out.
I might sound like the old
we
timer.
got beat.
I might sound like the old timer, but let me tell you something. I do believe that the impact of social media and the more this sort of behavior gets highlighted and featured, the more you have, people wanting to say, it was back in the day when we had fights in school, when it spread, there'd be fights right after that.
Right.
When we were talking about it, there were more fights. And let's not pretend like we were all angels.
Yeah.
We had our challenges. I remember in Bennett Middle School, the craziness that I saw when I was, a student there. It did happen. And I think the more that kids have to see this stuff happening, and I don't want to put it all in the media, but the more that kids see that stuff, the more it affects them.
Well, and I don't want to get into a back and forth about this, but as far as cell phones go, I think honestly, I think it's tough because I like my daughter in high school having a cell phone. If if something happens, remember we were talking about it earlier a couple of years ago when they had all those bomb threats, those automated fake, all across the country. They would at one point they moved the high school kids over to the middle school right next door
in the backpack or something. That's
all
I'm saying.
It may be tougher rules.
Yeah,
maybe tougher rules on it. I know. And Stephen Decatur, my son, he actually likes to take his phone to school because when he takes it. One of his classes, if you turn it in during class and you pick it up at the end of class, if you turn it in, you get like some kind of credit or something. Good. Yeah, so that's just one of his classes does. But just as an example, now there are some classes where you just lay them out on the desk or whatever. But there's other ones where you can have it, it can't be seen, and that's a whole nother.
To Kevin's point, the last thing I'd say is that we've recognized that the city has a role. We may not have a role inside the school building, right? Other than now that we are partners with Big Brothers Big Sisters and our city employees can be mentors on the clock.
Right.
But we also have a role after hours, in the summer, on the weekends. That's why we stood up our Truett Street Community Center. That's why we have under construction right now our Newton Street Community Center. That's why we hired a youth development specialist. That's why we're creating more programming like our Youth Civics Council, the Youth Leadership Academy, the Salisbury Youth Athletics programs, the PALS, the Police Athletic League programs. That's why we're doing those things to support a nurturing environment for our kids in the city. And yes, our responsibility is outside of the schools, but that's going to have an impact in the schools too.
Yeah.
The more work we do there outside of the schools on the weekends and after school, the better off it's going to be in the classroom too, I believe.
Very good. Very good.
Jake's here with us today, and we have a program for kids on Sunday playing in the stadium at SU.
Yeah.
So everybody's really trying to do the best things that they can, and here he is today supporting that. You know what I mean? He's here doing that.
Yeah, no, and look, for people who always, the number one comeback is, there ain't nothing to do around here. I don't want to hear that. There's a lot to do around here. There's nothing for the kids. Yes, there is. Yeah. Yes, there is. Because I've heard that so many times over the years, and then there's a bunch that comes up for the kids, but then people still say, there ain't nothing for the kids. There ain't nothing for the kids. Yes, there is. There's a lot to do for the kids.
The best of Bill Baker and Jessica is on Power 101.7.